picture this. You're hauling a fully loaded bicycle up, like a 15% gradient.
Oh, brutal.
Right. And the surface beneath your tires, it isn't even dirt. It's essentially this staircase of loose, chunky Pyrenean limestone.
Yeah, the absolute worst kind of surface.
Exactly. So the sun is beating down, you're dripping sweat onto your top tube, and when you glance up, there are massive griffin vultures literally circling in the thermals right above your head.
Wow. Just waiting for you to drop.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, every single pedal stroke requires this deliberate, forceful negotiation with gravity. And then you think back to a few months prior, sitting in a comfortable chair looking at a pristine spreadsheet.
Well, the spreadsheet always lies. Or, rather it tells a very sanitized version of the truth,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because when we look at a neat column of dates and distances, the brain just abstracts the physical suffering. Like a kilometer on a spreadsheet is just a number.
Right.
But a kilometer on a 15% gravel climb in the high mountains, that is an existential negotiation.
And that collision, between the sanitized plan and the brutal, breathtaking reality of the mountain, that's our entire focus today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone.
Glad to be here for this one. It's a really special topic.
It really is. We have this massive stack of source materials in front of us covering the formidable El Piri bikepacking route in the Catalan Pyrenees. But, Tony, for you, Andy, and Adrian, we are tossing the ultra racing rulebook straight out the window.
Which is such a smart move, honestly.
Right, because today is not about the official June event. We aren't looking at elite completion times. And we certainly aren't interested in the hallucinatory sleep deprivation that comes with, trying to finish this whole thing in 4 days.
Right, which fundamentally changes the physics, the psychology, and honestly the logistics of the entire endeavor.
How so?
Well, the ultra-endurance racing scene, it's a test of sheer deprivation. You are minimizing sleep just to maximize forward momentum.
Just constantly moving.
Exactly. But by shifting this to a highly customized 10-day holiday itinerary for September, the route transitions from a survival test into this profound cultural and geological immersion.
Okay, let's unpack this because you guys have engineered a really brilliant setup here. It's a 764-kilometer loop over 10 stages, which makes it an 11-day trip out of Girona.
Yeah, a really solid block of riding.
And you're riding rigid gravel bikes. But crucially, you have pre-booked hotels.
That is the game changer right there.
Seriously, no tents, no sleeping on the ground. The mission is to actually experience the spirit of the Pyrenees without completely destroying yourselves in the process.
Which, is still going to be deeply physical. It's not a walk in the park.
Oh, definitely not.
Right.
But looking at this itinerary, I'm struck by the daily mileage. The days average between 75 and 95 kilometers.
Right.
So day 2, for example, is 75 kilometers from Cantoni Groves to Castel de Lerny. And day 10 is 95 kilometers.
Which on paper doesn't sound too crazy.
Well, that's my point. I mean, for 3 experienced cyclists, 75 kilometers on a road bike is basically a casual Saturday morning spin before you go grab a coffee.
Oh, absolutely.
So why is that taking up an entire day on this trip? Wait, 75 kilometers in a whole day?
Yeah.
Isn't that just a casual morning ride? Why dedicate a whole day to it?
Yeah, so it all comes down to friction and gravity. On a smooth tarmac road, a sleek carbon road bike experiences minimal rolling resistance.
You're just slicing right through the wind.
Exactly, you're slicing through the wind. But transition that to a chunky, eroded gravel track, and suddenly a massive percentage of your wattage is absorbed by the deformation of your tires.
Ah, right, because the tires are squishing over every rock.
Exactly, and the vertical displacement of your bike just bouncing over those rocks, it's a completely different thermodynamic equation. You are burning calories just to stabilize the bike, let alone move it forward.
And then you add the gravity.
Oh man, the gravity. Let's talk about the data we have from Torsten Frank here. He's a veteran ultra rider who analyzed this route.
Yeah, I saw his breakdown in the sources.
Right, so he uses a metric called the climbing factor.
Okay, climbing factor, how does that work?
It's pretty straightforward. It's calculated by taking the total elevation gain in meters and dividing it by the total distance in kilometers.
So meters climbed per kilometer ridden.
Exactly. Now, to give you some context, a standard rigorous European mountain tour usually sits at a climbing factor of around 20.
Okay, so 20 is a tough mountain day.
Right. And the transcontinental race, which is this infamous, grueling ride across all of Europe, that averages about a 10.
Wait, really? Just a 10?
Yeah, just a 10.
So a 10 is a grueling continental crossing, and a 20 is what you'd expect if you went to the Alps specifically to climb famous mountain passes all day.
Exactly. So any guesses on El Piri's climbing factor?
I mean, based on the buildup, I'm guessing it's high.
El Piri has a climbing factor of 25.
Okay, that sounds like a typo. I mean, 20.
Not a typo, 25.
If you average 25 meters of elevation gain for every single kilometer ridden, that's akin to carrying a loaded suitcase up the stairs of the Empire State Building, walking across the street and just doing it again all day long.
Yeah, it is relentless. And the math gets even more intimidating when you consider the terrain split.
What do you mean?
Well, roughly 50% of the El Piri route utilizes relatively flat, paved valley roads to connect the different mountain ranges.
Oh, I see.
Right, so that climbing factor of 25 isn't evenly distributed.
So the flat sections drag the average down.
Exactly, which means to reach an average of 25, the actual off-road gravel climbs must be astronomically steep.
Oh, wow. So when you're actually climbing, it's way more than 25.
We are talking sustained sections of 15 to 19% gradients.
That is steep.
At those pitches, you aren't just riding, you are constantly fighting the front wheel's desire to literally lift off the ground, all while trying to maintain traction on the rear pyre in loose dust.
Okay, so looking at day 3 of your spreadsheet, Tony, this reality really hits hard. It's Castel d'Alerny to Twicon.
Yeah, day 3 is a beast.
It is only 79 kilometers in length, but you are packing in 2,403 meters of climbing.
Just massive elevation.
That is essentially riding a metric century while summiting a major Tour de France or category climb right in the middle of it, on dirt.
Yep. And that's why it will easily take you 6 to 8 hours of actual moving time to cover those 79 kilometers.
Wow, 6 to 8 hours for 79K.
If you were pushing ultra race paces, you would ride for 16 hours and cover double that distance, finishing the day in total darkness.
Totally sleep deprived.
Exactly. But by capping the day at 79 kilometers, you secure roughly 4 to 6 hours of daylight where you are not actively pedaling.
Which gives you the bandwidth to actually be human beings.
Precisely.
I mean, you have time to wash off the mountain dust, sit down for a massive Catalan dinner, let the muscles synthesize some glycogen, and actually sleep in a real bed.
It changes everything about the recovery process.
And I notice you've also baked in a fascinating pressure release valve on day 8.
Oh yeah, the Andorra day.
Right. You drop down into St. Julia de Loria in Andorra. It's a 41-kilometer day with only 1,700 meters of climbing.
Which, strategically, that is masterful project management.
Really? Just to have a short day?
Oh, absolutely, because by the time you hit day 8, your bodies will be swimming in cortisol and your muscle fibers will be heavily degraded.
You're just beaten down.
Right. So a 41-kilometer day provides active recovery. You spin the legs just enough to promote blood flow and clear out metabolic waste products like lactic acid without inducing further muscle damage.
So you don't stiffen up, but you aren't breaking yourself down more.
Exactly. Plus, Andorra is a tax-free haven with incredible cycling infrastructure.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it is the perfect place to resupply, replace any worn brake pads, and mentally reset before the final pushback to Girona.
It really changes the entire narrative structure of the trip.
Yeah.
I mean, the ultra racers are essentially trying to speed read a 1,000-page epic fantasy novel in a single weekend.
That's a great analogy.
Right. They skim the pages, their eyes blur, and by Sunday night, they barely remember the plot. But you guys are reading it chapter by chapter.
You're actually absorbing it.
Exactly. You actually get to absorb the story the landscape is telling you. Which leads me to wonder, what exactly is that story? Like when you're crawling up these 15% pitches at a human pace, what are you actually looking at?
Well, the route designer, James Hayden, he spent months meticulously scouting lines to ensure El Piri wasn't just hard, but geographically profound.
Okay.
So the journey begins within the medieval walls of Girona. The architecture there is incredible. It's the old Barivel.
Oh, isn't that where they filmed scenes for Game of Thrones?
Yes, exactly. It's famously used for Game of Thrones. So the stone is ancient, heavy, and deeply tied to human history.
Beautiful way to start.
But the moment you roll west into the Espace Natural de Ligurie, human architecture rapidly gives way to raw ecology.
Yeah, the sources mention Liguiri has this wild, almost lawless history.
It really does.
It's an area of dense, low mountain forest that served as a hideout for Catalan bandits in the 1600s, right? Like the infamous Joan de Serralonga.
Yeah, and you can feel that isolation immediately. But as you pass through this area, the route forces you to confront very modern realities as well.
Like what?
Well, you ride past the Sau Reservoir. Historically, this reservoir submerged an entire village, including a church.
Oh, wow.
And for decades, only the very tip of the church spire was visible above the waterline.
But the sources note that due to the severe, prolonged drought that's devastating Catalonia right now, the water levels have plummeted drastically.
It's really tragic.
Yet to the point that the entire church, right down to its foundations, is sitting on dry, cracked earth.
It serves as a stark, unavoidable barometer for the climate crisis in southern Europe.
That is heavy.
It is, and when you are moving at a touring pace, you can't help but sit with the gravity of that visual. The landscape isn't just a backdrop, it is an active participant in the story.
Yeah.
And as you continue west into the Cadí-Moixeró Natural Park, the geology begins to shift violently.
Violently. How so?
Well, you enter the shadow of Pedraforca, which is this wildly famous double-peaked mountain that looks like a giant pitchfork carved out of rock.
Oh, I've seen pictures of that. It's stunning.
Yeah.
But the microclimates around Pedraforca sound almost jarring.
Oh, they are.
Because you're riding along the southern side of the Cadí Range, and the environment is described as incredibly lush, damp pine forests.
Right, very green.
Then, almost immediately on day 4, you transition into the Serra Boumort, and the sources describe it as an arid, wild terrain with switchbacks carved into dry hillsides.
Yeah, it's a huge contrast.
It sounds like you're riding through 5 different National Geographic documentaries. How does the environment flip so quickly?
What's fascinating here is a phenomenon called orographic lift.
Orographic lift, okay.
Yeah, so as moisture-heady air moves in from the Mediterranean, it hits the towering wall of the Cadí mountain range.
Right.
The air is forced upward, cools rapidly, and dumps all its moisture on that southern slope, creating those lush pine forests.
Ah, so it basically squeezes the water out of the clouds.
Exactly. And by the time the air crests the peaks and drops down into the Serra Boumort region, it has been totally stripped of its water.
Leaving nothing but dry air.
It creates a rain shadow. You ride from a damp, dark forest into a sun-blasted, arid scrubland in a matter of hours.
And because of that aridity and isolation, the Serra Boumort is where the wildlife encounters really spike.
Yes, exactly.
This is where those griffin vultures come in, right?
Yeah, they love those dry thermals.
I mean, if you were doing the ultra race, you might pass through this area at 3 a.m. with a headlamp, completely blind to your surroundings.
You'd miss everything.
But Tony, at 2:20 p.m. on a Tuesday, you guys are going to see massive raptors riding the thermal updrafts off the dry canyon walls.
It's spectacular. You'll likely encounter ibex navigating the sheer rock faces, and perhaps even spot eagles.
Unbelievable.
And the biodiversity peaks when you push into the Parc Natural de la Pyrénées, which is the largest natural park in Catalonia.
The highest point of the route, right?
Yeah, this is the deep, wild heart of the route. You are riding up around 2,000 meters in altitude on gravel tracks that were originally carved into the mountains centuries ago for transhumans.
Transhumans, that's the seasonal movement of livestock, right?
Exactly, moving the sheep to high summer pastures.
It's ancient infrastructure. I loved the anecdote in the sources about the rider passing through one of these tiny high-altitude villages.
Oh, yeah, the van story.
Yeah. He stops to fill his water bottles.
Right.
And there's a local guy in a garage camperizando, basically converting his van into a camper.
Right.
They strike up a conversation. The local points up at the jagged, towering peaks surrounding the valley and just shakes his head saying, "You're going up there."
I love that.
It's that connection to the people who actually inhabit this extreme terrain
Yeah.
that you'd completely miss if you were just staring at a Garmin timer.
Totally. And the sensory input is relentless. Just south, near Pobla de Segur, the geology abruptly shifts again into a UNESCO geopark defined by towering red rock formations and dinosaur fossils.
Dinosaur fossils.
Yeah, it visually mimics the American Southwest, like Utah or Arizona, right in the middle of Europe.
That's wild.
You have dense pine, arid scrub, alpine granite, and red desert rock all within a 10-day pedal.
Okay, but let me challenge the logistics of this isolation for a second.
Sure.
Because it sounds like you're riding through 5 different National Geographic documentaries. But doesn't this isolation mean you're totally cut off from civilization? I mean, if you're deep in bear country in the Pyrenees, riding tracks built for sheep herds, how does the pre-booked hotel strategy possibly work?
It's a fair question.
Are you just dropping out of the wilderness into a bustling metropolis every night? That seems entirely contradictory to the idea of a wild bikepacking route.
Well, it seems contradictory until you understand the deep historical settlement patterns of the Pyrenees.
How so?
Unlike the American West, which features massive, uninterrupted expanses of wilderness with zero human footprint, the European mountains have been inhabited and traversed for millennia.
Oh, right. humans have been there forever.
Exactly. And the brilliance of James Hayden's route design is how it leverages this history. You are deep in the wild, but you naturally intersect with ancient stone villages roughly every 50 kilometers.
Oh, wow. So mechanically, you are never more than 3 or 4 hours of pedaling away from civilization.
Correct. The beauty of El Piri is its balance. These villages might only have 50 full-time residents, but they are crucial anchors.
They're tethers to the real world.
Right. They almost always feature a public water fountain fed by mountain springs, a small bakery, or a local bar.
Essential bikepacking infrastructure.
Exactly. This network of tiny, enduring settlements provides the exact infrastructure needed to make credit card touring viable without diluting the wildness of the riding itself.
Knowing there's a bed waiting for you is great, but to get to that bed, you have to survive the terrain.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
So let's talk about the hardware required to negotiate 764 kilometers of mixed surfaces. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The bike conundrum.
Yes, Tony, Andy, and Adrian, you are all bringing rigid gravel bikes. No suspension forks, no rear shocks.
Just carbon or metal frames.
Just frames, and your own bodies acting as the shock absorbers. If the descents are as chunky as a limestone staircase, why shouldn't they just rent hardtail mountain bikes from one of the shops in Girona, like Campo Bicicleta, or Eat Sleep Cycle?
It's a very common debate, honestly.
Because a front suspension fork would save your wrists from taking an absolute beating over 10 days.
It would.
Yeah.
But selecting a mountain bike for El Piri introduces a massive parasitic drain on your energy.
On the paved sections, you mean?
Exactly. We have to go back to the surface split. The route is 50% rough gravel and 50% quiet tarmac. A mountain bike, even a really lightweight hardtail, is geometrically optimized for descending. The rider is more upright, which basically turns your chest into a parachute on road sections.
So aerodynamically, it's a
A
nightmare.
huge nightmare.
Yeah.
And the suspension fork, even when it's locked out, adds significant weight and often experiences bobbing.
Bobbing.
Yeah, where your pedaling energy actually compresses the fork instead of driving the rear wheel forward.
So it's a game of kinetic efficiency. On the tarmac, the gravel bike turns 100% of your effort into forward motion.
Exactly.
So you're willing to suffer a bit on the rocky descents to ensure you aren't dragging a sluggish, inefficient machine up thousands of meters of paved alpine climbs.
That's the trade-off. You are trading high-speed descending comfort for supreme climbing and cruising efficiency. The rigid gravel bike is the perfect do-it-all compromise.
Provided they manage their speed on the rough descents, right?
Yes, absolutely. You have to protect your wrist. However, because you lack mechanical suspension, your component choices, specifically gearing and tires, become a matter of absolute survival.
Let's pull the numbers from your spreadsheet, Tony. You're running a modern 1X drivetrain.
The single ring setup.
Right. That means one single chainring by your pedals and a massive cassette on your rear wheel. Specifically, a 38-tooth front ring and a 46-tooth rear cog.
Very standard modern gravel gearing.
And Andy and Adrian are running traditional 2X drivetrains. So
Yeah.
2 rings in the front. They have a 30-tooth small ring up front and a 36-tooth rear cog.
Okay.
So mechanically, who has the advantage when you hit a 19% gradient?
To analyze this, we really have to calculate the gear ratio. The technical analysis of El Piri explicitly states that a sub 1.1 gear ratio is absolutely mandatory for a loaded bike on this route.
A sub 1.1 ratio. Okay, let's break that down. A 1.1 ratio, say a 34-tooth ring up front and a 34-tooth cog in the rear, means that one full revolution of the pedals turns the rear wheel exactly one full revolution.
Right. Which sounds fine on paper.
It does, but I imagine on a steep climb, trying to turn the rear wheel, a full revolution requires a massive amount of torque.
Oh, it's excruciating.
It's like trying to start a manual transmission car on a steep hill in third gear. The engine, or in this case your knees, will just stall out.
Exactly. The biomechanics of a 1.1 ratio on a 15% climb with a 15-kilogram bike setup will destroy your patellofemoral joints.
Yikes.
Yeah, your cadence drops to a grinding halt, and the sheer torque required to push the pedals down forces the kneecap against the femur with incredible pressure.
So to save your joints, you need tractor gearing.
Tractor gearing. You need the rear wheel to turn less than one full revolution for every pedal stroke. That allows you to spin the pedals quickly and smoothly with really low torque.
So let's do the math on their setups. Tony, your 38 divided by 46 yields a ratio of roughly 0.82.
Right.
And Andy and Adrian, your 30 divided by 36 yields a ratio of 0.83.
So mathematically, despite entirely different drivetrain philosophies, the three of you are virtually identical in your easiest gear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At 0.82 and 0.83, you achieve that critical sub 1.1 threshold.
That's brilliant.
You will have the mechanical leverage required to spin your way up the Cerebus mort without causing microscopic tears in your knee cartilage. And crucially, the group dynamic won't be fractured by someone having to get off and push their bike purely because they lack the gears.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the guy walking his bike while everyone else is riding.
Exactly.
So gearing saves the knees, but tires save the hands, the wrists, and the spine. The sources are vehement that high-volume, tubeless tires are non-negotiable for rigid bikes on this route.
100% non-negotiable.
Walk me through the physics of a tubeless setup here. Why are inner tubes a death sentence on El Piri?
Okay, so when you ride a rigid bike over sharp, chunky limestone, the tire casing takes massive, sudden impacts.
Every time you hit a rock.
Right. If you have an inner tube, that impact often compresses the tire entirely, pinching the rubber tube between the unyielding rock and the hard metal rim of your wheel.
And that causes a flat.
Yeah, it creates what we call a snake bite or a pinch flat. And to prevent pinch flats with tubes, you have to run really high air pressures, which makes the tire rock hard.
Which means every single vibration transfers directly up the carbon fork, through the handlebars, and right into your skeletal system.
Precisely. It's exhausting. But a tubeless system eliminates the inner tube entirely. The tire beads lock directly into the rim, and a liquid latex sealant is poured inside.
So it's basically an airtight seal without the tube.
Exactly. Because there is no tube to pinch, you can drop your tire pressure significantly.
How does that change the physics of the ride?
Lower pressure allows the tire casing to remain supple. When you hit a rock, the tire deforms around it, absorbing the kinetic energy of the impact before it ever reaches the fork.
So the tire itself becomes a suspension.
Exactly. Furthermore, if a sharp flint does puncture the tire, the escaping air pressure forces the liquid latex sealant into the hole.
Oh, right.
And it rapidly coagulates and seals the puncture while you are still riding.
That's incredible. It's like a self-healing pneumatic suspension system.
It really is.
The technical guide suggests a 45mm tire width is the absolute minimum, but strongly advocates for 50mm.
I would definitely lean toward 50.
Right. Given the lack of suspension, going to a 50mm tire, which is basically a 2.0-inch cross-country mountain bike tire, seems like the smartest way to increase the air volume and maximize that vibration damping.
It drastically increases the contact patch and the total volume of compressible air. Over 10 days, the cumulative fatigue saved by that extra 5mm of rubber just cannot be overstated.
Okay, so the bikes are tuned for efficiency, the gears are mathematical lifesavers, and the tires are doing all the heavy lifting for your comfort.
Sounds like they're ready.
Yeah, but the real advantage you guys have over the ultra racers is weight. Because you have pre-booked hotels, you aren't carrying a 2-kilogram tent.
Huge weight savings.
You aren't hauling a heavy sleeping pad or a bulky synthetic sleeping bag. Your bikes are going to feel incredibly nimble. But, and here's the catch, relying entirely on hotels introduces a new packing puzzle.
It does.
If you aren't carrying a shelter, what exactly is going into those bike bags? How do you pack for the extreme volatility of the high mountains?
This is the delicate art of credit card touring, because you have to remember, the Pyrenees do not care about your hotel reservation.
Good point.
The sources detail the violently unpredictable microclimates of these altitudes. I mean, you can wake up in a mountain refuge and step outside into 4 degrees Celsius.
Just barely above freezing.
Right. And then by 2:00 p.m., after dropping down into a valley basin, the ambient temperature can skyrocket to 38 degrees Celsius.
A 34-degree Celsius swing in a matter of hours.
It's wild.
The physiological stress of that is immense. I mean, your body is desperately trying to conserve heat in the morning, constricting blood vessels, and then desperately trying to dump heat in the afternoon by sweating profusely.
And you have to pack for both extremes.
How do you pack clothing to manage that without bringing an entire wardrobe?
You rely on highly technical, compressible layers. Extracting specifics from Chris Hall's packing list for a similar event, the foundational piece is a high-quality, lightweight puffer jacket, typically utilizing high-loft goose down.
Down is amazing for weight-to-warmth ratio.
It's incredible because its physical structure traps a massive boundary layer of warm air against your body, providing extreme insulation, yet it compresses down to the size of a grapefruit in your saddlebag.
But down loses its insulating properties if it gets wet.
It does, completely.
So you need a shell. The sources mention Pertex fabric specifically.
Pertex, or similar advanced waterproof breathable membranes, are vital. They block external moisture from rain and block convective heat loss from the wind.
But they still breathe.
Right. Microscopic pores allow evaporated sweat to escape. Imagine if you descend a 15-kilometer paved pass at 60 kilometers an hour in the early morning.
Oh, the wind chill.
The wind chill alone could induce mild hypothermia. The Pertex shell cuts the wind entirely.
Managing temperature on the outside is one thing, but operating a human engine at 38 degrees Celsius requires intense internal management.
Hydration and nutrition are key.
The sources emphasize salt tablets and high-carb drink mixes. Let's look at the biology there. When you are sweating that much, you aren't just losing water, right?
No, you are losing vast amounts of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which are the crucial electrolytes that govern muscle contraction.
So what happens if you just drink water?
Well, sweat has a specific osmolality. If you drink pure, unsalted water to replace the sweat, you continuously dilute the remaining sodium concentration in your bloodstream.
Which leads to hyponatremia.
Yes, and that is dangerous. The electrical signals from your brain to your leg muscles begin to misfire.
How does that feel on the bike?
This manifests as catastrophic paralyzing muscle cramps. By supplementing with salt tablets, you maintain the sodium gradient across your cell membrane.
So you're constantly replenishing the electrical system.
Exactly. You keep the electrical system functioning so you can actually turn those 0.82 gears.
Wow. And there is a much more localized physical breakdown we need to address.
Saddle sores.
Friction. Sitting on a carbon saddle, pedaling 80 times a minute for 8 hours a day for 10 days straight.
It's a lot of wear and tear.
The skin in contact with the saddle undergoes immense shear stress. Add the moisture of sweat and the skin softens, leading to micro tears.
And those micro tears become a breeding ground for the bacteria naturally present on your skin.
Right.
That leads to folliculitis or painful subcutaneous abscesses, which is what cyclists call saddle sores.
And a bad one can ruin a trip.
Oh, a severe saddle sore can physically end your trip. You simply won't be able to bear weight on the saddle.
The defense mechanism highlighted in the sources is rigorous hygiene and chamois cream. Chris Hall mentioned squirt barrier balm.
Barrier balm is fantastic. It's a highly viscous hydrophobic cream.
Hydrophobic meaning it repels water.
Right. It drastically reduces the coefficient of friction between your skin and the padded bib shorts, and it repels moisture to prevent the skin from softening in the first place.
So it's basically a protective layer.
Exactly. Furthermore, you cannot rely on just one pair of bib shorts for a 10-day trip. You must bring a spare pair.
Just to keep things clean.
The protocol is to wash the dirty pair in the hotel sink every single night with antibacterial soap, let them air dry, and wear the fresh pair the next day.
Okay, so you have the down jacket for the cold, the salt for the heat, the cream for the friction. But there's one item on the packing list that completely subverts the hotel strategy.
The emergency sleep system.
Right. The sources strictly advise that every rider, regardless of whether they have a 5-star hotel booked, absolutely must carry an emergency foil bivy sack. But wait, if they have hotels, why do they really need a bivy?
Because the mountain demands humility. An emergency bivy sack weighs less than 150 grams and packs down to the size of an apple.
So it's practically weightless.
Exactly. It is a reflective, windproof sleeve that you literally crawl into. Think back to our discussion of orographic lift and violent weather patterns.
Right, the sunstorms.
The sources contain a harrowing account from a Q&A session where a group of riders was caught exposed at 2,000 meters in a sudden, violent hail and sleet storm.
The temperature must have plummeted instantly.
Instantly.
I mean, if you are climbing in 30-degree heat, your jersey is soaked with sweat. If a storm hits as you crest a pass and you begin descending at 40 kilometers an hour in freezing sleet, you are experiencing massive convective cooling.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Your core temperature will drop dangerously fast.
And hypothermia scrambles your cognitive function. You become confused, your fine motor skills degrade to the point where you literally can't squeeze your brakes, and your body violently shivers to generate heat.
And a hotel reservation 30 kilometers down the valley cannot save you in that moment.
No, it cannot.
You must immediately stop, put on your down jacket, put on your Pertex shell, and crawl into that foil bivy sack.
The foil reflects your radiant body heat back onto yourself, stopping the temperature drop. It is a non-negotiable insurance policy.
That is sobering. Even on a holiday, the environment is fundamentally lethal if disrespected.
Very true.
Let's shift gears to the electronics. Since they are stopping at hotels, Do they really need massive power banks and dynamos like the ultra racers use?
No, and that's a huge advantage. This is a major area where the 10-day hotel strategy pays massive dividends.
Because dynamos are complicated.
Right. A dynamo hub adds rolling resistance and mechanical complexity. Because Tony's group is sleeping indoors every night, they have guaranteed access to 220-volt wall outlets.
So the strategy simplifies to just carrying a standard wall charger and a modest 10,000 milliamp hour power bank.
Yes. The power bank just sits in a top tube bag, trickling a charge into the Garmin GPS during the day to ensure navigation doesn't die.
And then you just charge everything at night.
At night, you plug the power bank, the GPS, the phone, and the electronic shifting batteries into the wall. It's vastly lighter and infinitely more reliable than trusting a dynamo hub on rough gravel.
Relying on those external services like hotels and local infrastructure is incredibly efficient, but it forces you to adapt your schedule to the local culture. Let's look at how to manage the daily realities on the ground in rural Catalonia.
It's all about logistics from here on out.
Doing this in September is a smart move. You usually get spectacular weather, and you avoid the oppressive, dangerous heat waves of July and August.
The thermal load on your body is much lower, which is great.
But, astronomically, the autumnal equinox is approaching.
Yes. The days are noticeably shorter. You lack that luxurious late evening sunlight you get in midsummer.
So time management becomes critical.
Absolutely. If you have 85 kilometers and 2,500 meters of climbing ahead of you, you cannot leisurely roll out of the hotel at 11:00 a.m.
Because if you do, you will be negotiating treacherous gravel descents in the dark.
Exactly. And starting early means you slam right into one of the most dangerous logistical pitfalls highlighted in the sources.
The Spanish siesta.
The Spanish siesta. This is a cultural institution that routinely catches foreign bikepackers completely off guard.
How bad is it?
Well, in these tiny, remote Catalan villages, the local businesses, the bakeries, the small grocery stores, the pharmacies, they strictly shutter their doors between 13:30 and 17:00.
Wow. Let's look at the physiology of this mistake.
Okay.
Let's say you've been riding for 5 hours. It's 2:00 p.m. Your muscles have burned through their stored glycogen. You are operating on a severe caloric deficit, and you roll into a beautiful stone village expecting to buy a massive sandwich and a Coca-Cola.
And the town is dead.
The shutters are pulled. Everything is locked.
The physiological result is known as bonking, or hitting the wall.
I've been there. It's awful.
When blood glucose drops too low, the central nervous system intervenes to protect the brain. It literally restricts your ability to recruit muscle fibers.
Your legs just feel like cement.
Exactly. You feel dizzy, nauseous, and profoundly weak. You cannot simply tough your way through a true glycogen depletion. The engine literally has no fuel.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, planning your day isn't just about pedaling. It's an exercise in project management.
You're managing caloric intake, daylight hours, and local business schedules simultaneously.
So to survive El Piri, your daily project management must account for the siesta. You have to aggressively front-load your caloric resupply.
Yes.
If you pass a bakery at 11:30 a.m., you buy the bread and the cheese and stuff it in your bags because you know that between 1:43 and 5:00 p.m., you are entirely self-reliant.
It adds a layer of mental taxation to the physical effort. You are constantly calculating burn rates against opening hours.
And that proactive mindset has to extend to the accommodations as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Managing accommodations can be tricky.
The sources detail a nightmare scenario where a rider arrived exhausted at a hotel booked through a third-party app, only to find it completely overbooked.
That's devastating.
Sufdash shrugged, leaving him stranded on the street as the sun went down. After pedaling 80 kilometers, the emotional devastation in that moment would be crushing. How do you mitigate that?
Redundancy in communication. You never trust the app implicitly. The day before arrival, you or a Spanish-speaking friend must call the hotel directly.
Just to confirm.
Confirm the booking, but more importantly, confirm the late check-in protocol.
Why is that so important?
Well, if Tony's group snaps a chain and has to spend 2 hours fixing it by the side of the trail, they might not reach the hotel until 10:00 p.m.
Right.
They need to know the desk will be manned or that there is a secure lockbox with a physical key waiting for them.
Speaking of snapping a chain, let's play devil's advocate on the mechanical side. You got rigid gravel bikes pushing hard through rocky terrain. What happens if a carbon rim cracks on a descent? Or a rear derailleur shears off into the spokes?
Mechanical contingencies are a huge part of the planning.
Because it's a specialized piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And you might be 40 kilometers from the nearest bike shop.
Well, the official event rules, which are actually good guidelines for tourists too, suggest a very sensible framework for this.
What do they suggest?
If a bike suffers catastrophic, unrideable failure, riders are permitted to hitchhike or take local transit to a commercial center to effect repairs.
As long as they go back. Right.
Provided they return to the exact spot of the breakdown to resume the route, yes.
And starting and ending the loop in Girona is a massive logistical safety net here. I mean, it is one of the premier cycling hubs in Europe.
The mechanics there can fix anything.
Furthermore, the sources explicitly mention that shops like Campo Bicicleta offer a dedicated emergency roadside rescue service.
Which is such a brilliant service.
For around €55 a day, they offer on-call van extraction. If a frame cracks in the Sarabumort, knowing you can drop a pin on your phone and have a van come scoop you up provides immense peace of mind for a group on a holiday.
It really does. But, the mechanicals are usually easier to fix than the biologicals.
Very true. Let me push you on the human element then. What happens if one of the guys just has a totally off day?
It happens to everyone.
Bad legs, stomach bug, and they realize they aren't going to make their 85-kilometer target to the next pre-booked hotel. Say Adrian just wakes up destroyed. The cumulative fatigue of the 25 climbing factor has just overwhelmed his recovery systems.
Yeah.
He hits the wall at kilometer 40 of an 85-kilometer day. The hotel is 45 kilometers away over a mountain pass. He cannot safely pedal the bike. What happens to the pre-booked hotel strategy then?
The inherent vulnerability of the hotel strategy is exposed. I mean, this is the inherent risk of the hotel strategy.
Because you have to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you rely on a tent, your bedroom is wherever you decide to stop pedaling. When you rely on pre-booked hotels, your bedroom is a fixed GPS coordinate.
You have drawn a non-negotiable line in the sand.
You have. And if a rider cannot continue, the group must immediately execute a contingency plan.
What are the practical mechanics of that contingency?
It requires checking the ego and assessing the logistics. Can you limp to the next village and call a local taxi or hire a farmer with a truck to transport the distressed rider and their bike ahead to the hotel town?
Just jump ahead a few towns.
Right. Or, if transit is unavailable, do you split the group? Like, Tony and Andy ride ahead to secure the rooms and the luggage, while Adrian takes a bus.
And if there are no buses?
In the absolute worst-case scenario where movement is impossible and darkness is falling, you lean on that emergency bivvy. You deploy the emergency bivvy sacks, huddle for warmth, and wait for daylight to orchestrate an extraction.
It demands an incredible amount of communication and grace from the group. You have to be willing to abandon the purity of riding every single kilometer if a friend's health is at risk.
Exactly. The success of a 10-day bikepacking trip is rarely determined by power numbers or VO2 max. It is determined by the group's capacity for empathy and pragmatic problem-solving when the spreadsheet inevitably shatters against reality.
So what does this all mean? Let's summarize the incredible adventure awaiting Tony, Andy, and Adrian. Looking at all of this, the data, the geography, the physiology, you guys have engineered a truly remarkable adventure.
They really have.
You have struck a delicate balance. 10 days of breathtaking views, absorbing the wild, changing ecosystems of Catalonia from lush pine to red desert. Manageable but steep daily stages.
You are utilizing the perfect mechanical compromise in properly geared, high-volume, rigid gravel bikes.
And you are managing the daily logistics of siestas and calories, all anchored by the promise of cozy hotel beds waiting at the end of each day.
It is, in my view, the most immersive and sustainable way to experience James Hayden's route. But I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you pack your bags.
Let's hear it.
There is a profound irony built into this specific style of bikepacking. By booking those hotels for 10 days, you brilliantly remove the physical burden of carrying camping gear.
Which is huge.
Right. You drop kilograms of mass from the bike, saving your knees and your energy on those brutal 15% pitches. You remove the nightly anxiety of wandering through the dark woods looking for a flat, legal patch of dirt to sleep on.
That sounds like a pure advantage. Where's the irony?
The irony is the law of conservation of stress. By removing the physical weight of the camping gear and the mental stress of finding a place to sleep, you inherently add a massive psychological weight.
Cookies.
The tyranny of the daily deadline. The reservation demands your arrival.
Ah, I see.
The mountain doesn't care about your check-in time, but you do. It doesn't matter if you suffer 3 punctures. It doesn't matter if the temperature hits 38 degrees and your salt tablets run low.
The clock is ticking.
It doesn't matter if the headwind howls for 6 hours straight. You must reach that specific coordinate every single night. In many ways, maintaining a rigid schedule in an unpredictable wilderness is its own unique type of endurance challenge.
That is a fascinating psychological tension. With a tent, the wilderness is your home. With a hotel, the wilderness is an obstacle between you and your home.
Precisely.
Yeah.
How will your dynamic as three friends hold up when the mountain says stop, but the hotel reservation says keep going?
And that tension is exactly why we do this. The spreadsheet is the theory, but the mountain is the truth. Tony, Andy, Adrian, we are wishing you the absolute best of luck on your September adventure. Manage your gears, respect the weather, pack those emergency bivvies, and most importantly, don't forget to look up at the vultures. Remember that out in the Catalan Pyrenees, it's not about how fast you finish, but how deeply you experience the spirit of the mountains. Safe travels, guys. We'll see you on the next deep dive.